So, one of the major opinions I seem to have relative to all my other likes and dislikes is my personal stance on Dark Souls 3. I want to get this out of the way first. This is not a teardown or an attack on people that like anything that I criticize or personally don't enjoy. Pretty much all my video essay content is just for the sake of trying to express what I believe to be interesting ideas that maybe other people might find interesting as well. Opinions are opinions. My opinions are my own. They aren't facts. They're just my thoughts, and I respect other people's personal experience. Take no issue with any opinions they might have. If you disagree or feel that I'm being unfair in some way, I feel we'd both appreciate you simply bringing up your criticisms of my stance or perhaps my arguments. I'm always open to, changing my mind after hearing logical arguments that I haven't yet considered, and even though I may seem like a very angry and strongly opinionated person at times, my venting isn't necessarily a reflection of my actual beliefs. I'll always listen with an open mind if someone wants to tell me something, so that'll be less annoying. Ultimately, though, I know I can't control anyone on the internet, so I can only try to present myself in as fair a manner as possible. But just the fact that I have an opinion that a lot of people might disagree with can be enough for some of them to just plug their ears and start attacking me without engaging in a real dialogue, as I have found numerous times before. So, as always, the only person that can change your mind is yourself. No one else can adjust you if you just want to continue believing what you already believe, so you have to be the one that's critical of your own opinions and beliefs and consider the possibility that a different perspective might be viable. Same is obviously true for me. But at the end of the day, not trying to actually change anyone's mind, that's not really the goal, just trying to express my thoughts and ideas that I think other people might find interesting in some way, even if they ultimately disagree. With that out of the way, what's the point of this essay? One of my favorite game series of all time is Soulsborne, or what people refer to as Soulsborne or Souls-like or any of that. Side note, I generally take issue with that term. The term Souls-like is really vague and poorly defined, I feel. I think when most people say Souls-like, they're referring to perhaps a game that has a death mechanic where you lose resources, or perhaps like a third-person character action game. Perhaps they're just referring to some sort of perceived element of difficulty in a game, but I've always found that games get called Souls-likes are extremely different from the fundamental values that I think sets like Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro apart from a bunch of other games that I would classify as like character action or action RPGs like Nioh games or things like that. Bloodborne and Dark Souls are two of my favorite games of all time, so it would seem odd that I would dislike Dark Souls 3 so strongly. It's not odd that I dislike DS2. Most Souls fans don't really enjoy that game for reasons I'm sure everyone is well aware of, but it's where DS3 comes in, where it really highlights the fundamental differences in how I view the entertainment value of Dark Souls compared to how it seems most other people view it. I have a bunch of criticisms of DS3, which I'll get into, but this is the biggest dividing line. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm probably a little too uptight when it comes to game design, but I'm naturally obsessive about certain things in gameplay. I'm a perfectionist in like the worst sense of the word. I'm not good at letting loose. I take things way too seriously, and I'm highly competitive, I guess I should say. I mean, it's single-player games, but as soon as I touch a game, I kind of want to start optimizing it and figuring out how to do it better, faster, cleaner, as fast as possible. I want to take a gameplay loop and like perfect it, turn it into a well-oiled machine. It's not exactly fair to most of the games I play because my own personal feelings regarding gameplay are honestly pretty illogical. For example, I have this feeling that I want to optimize and perfect, and as such, I refuse to use usable items in most games because in my head I think, oh, this is a crutch, this is a limited resource. The better I get at the game, the fewer of these I should use, up to 0. If I've mastered the game, I shouldn't need to use hardly anything. Or if I'm playing a resource management game like an RPG, I understand that I have to spend like health, MP, all that sort of thing, but I want to be as optimal as physically possible. I want to minimize those numbers, min-max all over the place. I want to do as much as I can with as little as I can manage. This makes me very different from, say, a speedrunner, for example, who plays to a sort of optimization, but like, take the Dark Souls 3 speedrunners, for example. They prioritize DPS, so they use items like fire papers or whatever items are in Dark Souls 3. They use glitches that allow them to stack damage buffs. They use glitches that prevent the bosses from loading in their movesets. They use all sorts of things that to make the game go as fast as possible. I'm not complaining about that. That's like, speedrunners are great, but this is where I fall into a gray zone between it, because I'm not like a serious enough player to like be a speedrunner or truly optimize in the same sense that a speedrunner would, but I'm not casual enough to be okay with taking a hit that I could have avoided or using an item that I feel like I shouldn't have needed to use. Like I said, my feelings towards the gameplay are honestly pretty illogical and dumb, but nonetheless, it is what it is. So DS3 was the first and the only game I played from Miyazaki that I felt like patience doesn't help. The way I play these games does not work in DS3. My style of hanging back, observing, waiting for 100% safe opportunities, trying to avoid taking a single hit throughout an entire fight, trying to figure out how to dismantle an enemy or a situation so that I could do it flawlessly on a second playthrough or with any build or at any damage output, it doesn't work. By the time I finished my first Bloodborne playthrough, I was immediately able to go and beat the game a second time through and do it with 0 deaths in like a quarter of the time it took me to beat it originally. But, I was really excited for DS3 when it first came out. I bought the Japanese version that only came out 1 week before the Western release. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I mean, my second playthrough kept running into more deaths. It didn't feel like there was any genuine improvement after the first playthrough that would allow me to be able to perfect the encounters, and the fact that it wasn't going any faster just made it also drag and become really obnoxious and boring. There were plenty of instances where I would say, like, fight a boss, be 100% passive, trying to identify the patterns, figure out what to do in every situation before I would actually try to beat the boss. But it was just a futile effort, or at the very least extremely slow. I would get frustrated, and then I would decide to stop trying. Like, I would decide to just, okay, I'll play like a moron this time, as in, I just mindlessly mash the dodge button, rather than trying to carefully observe and only dodge precisely, like, each attack where, when I saw something that I knew I needed to dodge. I mashed the attack button blindly, even when I didn't know if it was safe to do so. I just kept trading blows with the boss, and then just kept, like, mindlessly mashing dodge to get away, and then use Estus to heal. And what was the end result of playing like a brain-dead dipshit? It was always more effective than trying to be patient and carefully figure out an airtight game plan. Playing like a brain-dead moron is always better in DS3. DS3 is the first one where I was rewarded more for being a dipshit than for when I was being patient, and the sour taste that leaves has never ever gone away. My satisfaction in these games comes from my improvement, my ability to learn the patterns and situations and to see tangible results. I don't care about, like, seeing the victory on the screen from beating a boss. There's lots of ways where you can happen to beat a boss that don't involve you actually getting better at the game. You can happen to get by. You can just have a lot of DPS in such a way. Maybe you wouldn't even be able to replicate it the next time you played. I don't care about one victory. I want to have the satisfaction of knowing that if I played that fight again, I have the knowledge and skills and awareness of all the situations to completely dismantle it. That'll be guaranteed success. I won't even get hit by a single attack. That's just a matter of how quickly I'm able to beat it next time, not a question of whether or not I will or whether or not I'll get hit at any point. I once beat a run of Bloodborne with literally no weapons. My fight with Father Gascoigne just using fists that deal 2 damage per hit lasted over half an hour because each one of my hits was so minuscule, but I didn't die. I don't remember if I got hit at any point, but I definitely didn't die. I slowly played perfectly and chipped away at his health gauge until it got, it got boring after a while. But the fact that I could do that meant that I had mastered the fight enough that it couldn't kill me no matter what. That I could just endlessly, consistently play the game, slowly chipping down his health until he was dead. I had an answer for everything. Nothing would catch me off guard. That is the satisfaction that I want, the proof that I can just decide to speed anything up, that I know a fight so well that I could fight it for 40 fucking minutes, without even worrying for a moment that I might possibly fail. Demon's Souls was the first one of these games that I played, and it instilled in me an appreciation for defensive play, not taking rash actions, for not doing anything that carries an inherent risk, and for always waiting and meeting every single given situation with an appropriate countermeasure. There are a number of reasons why playing in this way is not fun throughout most of DS3. By this point, right now I've beaten Dark Souls 3 a total of 6 times, almost 7. Only recently have I actually done the DLC for the game, so I've done 3 playthroughs with the DLC and 3 without. I have to admit, my more recent playthroughs have been a little more fun, especially since a lot of the DLC and Slave Knight Gale, for example, is a boss that doesn't suffer from any of my core criticisms of most of the game. He's actually fun to fight. But this hasn't convinced me that my criticisms aren't meritorious, as they've still been highly annoying playthroughs. The issues this game has that ends up making it harder for people who want to develop airtight strategies and easier for people who just kind of herder their way to victory, just mashing dodge on defense and swinging with reckless abandon until eventually they've dealt more damage to the enemy than the enemy has to them relative to their healing usage. The problems with the result of both the game making it harder for someone to learn how to totally deconstruct an enemy moveset, and the game being more likely to hit you even if you have a solid plan and know exactly what you're doing, and the game rewarding brain-dead play far more than a lot of the other games, due to the strength of, like, poise, armor moves, and trading blows, and dealing, the benefits of swinging away until you stagger an opponent out of one of their armor moves, and just, like, you have so many healing items, you can just keep healing all the damage you're taking because you have so much Estus. Playing patiently and waiting until you know for certain that an action you take is correct and won't get you hit in any degree, that style of play has never been so weak in the series. Playing without a thought in your head has never been so strong. There's no particular order that these reasons come in, so I'll just start with, a few reasons why the game is annoying to a perfectionist, and that would be the speed. I'm in a bad mood. This is the third fucking time I've recorded this. An hour each to get the footage I needed because it constantly kept giving me technical difficulties, fucking the audio of my video recordings, or outright not recording my commentary in the first place. So not in the best of moods right now, but I will cover the exact same information I've already covered 3 fucking times already today. Great. Fantastic. Okay. First things first, game speed. Game is retardedly fast. That move is too fast. I hit the dodge button as soon as I saw his animation. It didn't come out correctly. Dodge does not come out when you input it. Now, obviously, I understand that all the games are like this because, if you hold the dodge button, you sprint. So, obviously, it doesn't dodge when you tap the button, it dodges when you release the button. But even then, this game feels like it has more delay on the dodge than even any of the other ones. Couple that with the fact that, more enemies in this game than any of the other ones, any, Dark Souls or Bloodborne or anything, have attacks that are just, breakneck speed, barely reactable. That will sometimes catch me, even when, the end result is basically that, the end result is that even if I've learned these enemies' movesets through and through, even if I've completely memorized everything that they can do, I'll sometimes just get hit anyways. I've fought these enemies for, 15 hours straight. Not straight, but in total. I've just fought these enemies for hours and hours on end, either to farm for souls or their resources as they drop, or mainly just because, I wanted to. I just wanted to continually fight these enemies, and because I know their movesets inside and out. I know every fucking thing that they can do. I know their approximate ranges. I know what, his footwork behavior indicates based on his moveset. And even then, I'll just get clipped here and there because the attacks are just too fucking fast. So that means that even no matter how much time I put into it, no matter how much time and work I put into learning the movesets and optimizing, spacing, anything like that, learning exactly how to move, exactly how to act in every single situation that I'm presented with, and what is safe or not safe to do so, no matter how much and how thoroughly I learn their movesets, I will never, I'm never guaranteed to be able to perfect them with no damage taken. Because some of their moves are just too fucking fast, and the game responds to your inputs too fucking slow. So, that's, one of the most chief annoyances in this game is that so many of the attacks are so stupidly lightning fast. Here, let me demonstrate with, I should be able to, anything that I've learned thoroughly, I should be able to beat no matter what weapon I have, right? So I've just equipped this weapon that deals, no damage, because it's not upgraded at all, and it's not part of my builds or anything. But it doesn't matter how much damage I'm doing. If, I've learned a moveset thoroughly and I've perfected it. I really didn't want to dodge because I didn't think I would have to. Wanted to see if I could walk to the right of that. Bullshit. Why wasn't he in hit stun? Why wasn't he put into more significant hit stun literally every other time I've done this? What the fuck? Oh, I didn't input that dodge, by the way. My dodge was inputted a significant time ago. My dodge was inputted when I got hit by the shield in order to avoid the shield. It didn't take it in time to avoid the shield, but it did buffer my input. Even though I wasn't mashing, I only hit the button one time. It took my input an hour later after the hit stun ended to give me a dodge that I didn't want and never inputted. It just gives you inputs that you didn't ask for because it buffers them from an hour ago, back when you wanted them to actually happen. It's hey, he wants to dodge here, but he can't dodge here. Instead of just not dodging, let's take his dodge input and force his character to dodge 2 full seconds after he pressed the button, when he definitely no longer wants the dodge to come out, because that's a better way to design inputs and gameplay. Yeah, that makes sense. Great game design. And it's all just so obnoxious. The enemies are so fucking aggressive. All their attacks are so retardedly fast. Oops. I'm so used to him doing the side shield attack at that instance. Like that. Anyways, the other 2 or 3 hours I've spent recording a bunch of pointless shit is really getting to me. I'm getting really fucking annoyed. But anyways, the point is, number one thing, so many of the things in this game are too fast, and it makes it so no matter how thoroughly you learn the game, sometimes you just get fucked over anyways. Just by the sheer speed of it, that you'll just get popped in the face by an attack that you were looking for, waiting for, but the game didn't receive your inputs in time to avoid. Next problem. This will be easier to demonstrate with. I could demonstrate with this with the short sword, but theoretically, I should be able to punish every single thing the opponent does. Can I do a shield kick with this weapon? I can't. Okay. Alrighty. So here's point I want to convey. I want to show how much time that you spend, okay, as I've already clarified, the way I play these games, I want to perfect them. I want to be able to beat any enemy that I fight. I want to be able to know that I've learned their moveset so thoroughly that it doesn't matter what build, I can pick any weapon and appropriately, alter it to
the enemy's moveset so I can avoid all damage, never get hit by a single attack, and slowly chip away no matter how little damage I'm dealing. I could fucking equip my goddamn fist. And I have done that in, like, some of the other games. Like, I've beaten Bloodborne bosses, I've beaten tons of shit only using fists because it's possible, because I could just do it. It wasn't even, like, you just learn the fights so thoroughly that you'll never get hit by any of the attacks, and you can just slowly chip away at the opponent. The fist moveset is honestly worthless in this game. Like, so many of your attacks have no hitbox whatsoever. But anyways, yeah, the point is, you can sort of do it with these enemies, but, like, I'll still get clipped by their stupidly fast attacks here and there. But I want to demonstrate what you can and can't do safely, because, okay, say I attack an enemy and I hit them and they did not hit me. That does not necessarily mean that what I did was a good idea, obviously. Like, that should be plainly obvious to anyone. Like, just because something worked out doesn't mean that it's likely to work out next time, or it's, like, statistically, like, a good idea. So, take this, for example. Like, say I want to see if I can just walk up to him and just attack him. The camera wigged out and I wasn't able to fucking clearly see the animation. Because, like, the enemies move so drastically that the camera constantly flips around whenever they pass by you, and you can't fucking see shit. And that's addition to, like, the other things. Like, this attack, this weapon that I'm holding, is just covering his body constantly, like, getting in the way of, like, his actual character model and making it hard to see. And, like, anytime I back into this shit, like, the camera gets really shitty and I can't see anything. Camera's really bad in this game. The point is, let's say I want to walk up and attack him. Okay, I'll walk up and swing. Worked out that time, but it doesn't guarantee that, like, that's a good idea next time. Let's try it again. Nope, I got hit there. And I'm not okay with taking damage, so that means that that's guaranteed. Let's try it again. Worked out that time. Let's try it again. Nope, took damage. So that means that if he's sitting there not doing anything, that is not an acceptable time to try and attack him. Let's wait for him to hold his shield up and see if I can go in for a kick. This is one of my biggest issues with this game, is, like, they give you this kick attack to, like, break shields, but it's useless. The way I play the game, it's almost never used. I would use it if, like, it was reliable in any sense, and it's decent for, like, PvP and such, if anyone actually used shields, but not that the netcode is good enough to play PvP. But the point is, let's wait for him to hold up his shield so I can demonstrate, or will test, I'll show you through testing whether or not it's actually safe to try to kick out his shield. Okay, he's holding his shield up. Let's try to kick it out. Okay? I mean, it didn't actually kick it out, but I got away with the kick. I wasn't punished for it, so that means, okay, it might be fine. Let's try it again. Let's wait for him to hold his shield up, and then we'll go for it again. Holding his shield up. Let's go for the kick. Okay, wasn't punished for it there. So it might be fine. Bullshit, I dodged on reaction. I dodged as soon as I saw any animation. I definitely hit the button in time. That's a lie. It just decided not to do my dodge at the time that I did it. And the game is too fast. The game is blatantly too fast. I did hit the dodge in time because I did it the same way I've done it every other fucking time. I knew the only move that he was going to do, and I know the animation. I've fought these guys for hours and hours and hours. I know exactly what their animations are and every single thing they can possibly do. I did not fuck up. You're lying. I'll tell you if I make mistakes. I've made mistakes on all of the recording sessions that I've had to do to get this goddamn footage. That was not a mistake. That's just the game being a pile of shit. Waiting for him to hold up his shield. Okay, let's try to go for the kick. Nope, got punished for it that time because he can, while he's holding up that shield, instantly transition. No. To whatchamacallit here. Let's just kill him. Actually, I don't have any decent weapons equipped. So that basically makes the kick, like the shield kick in most fights in this game, completely pointless and redundant. Because to try to kick out an enemy's shield requires you to just take a gamble that you won't get hit by the enemy just randomly deciding to do an attack from the state that they are where they're holding their shield. If they're holding their shield, he could just transition to that lightning fast swing that he has. Or he might not. You know, it's just random. It's just his RNG. So just because you might be able to walk up and kick out his shield doesn't mean that that's safe to do if his RNG makes him do something else. Does the backstep have any Does this have any invincibility? I've never really tried to use it for, like, defense in any of these games. So, yeah. The point is that any time that he's not whiffing an attack is time that, you know, is time where I just have to wait for him to act because it's not technically safe for me to do anything else. I might get away with it if I just go up and try to kick out a shield or swing at him. The statistics might actually be pretty in my favor. Like, I might have like a 85% chance for it to go well for me, but there's a 15% chance that his RNG could just make him do something that will punish me for doing that. So, because it's not a guaranteed, it's essentially still me rolling the dice, and that's not what I want to do. I want to be able to perfect the enemies. I want to be able to do them taking no damage at any point. How did I get hit? What? Was I out of stamina? I hit the dodge button backwards, but like I just assumed that I would have gotten out of the way because it wasn't even close. I know the stamina... You spend more stamina when your stats are not high enough to use the weapon that you have equipped, so... Whatever. Anyways. Ugh. Oh, my eyes are starting to get fucking blurry from having tried to record this shit so many times in a row. But anyways. Yeah. So now, basically, I mean, I've explained what I needed to for, like, this enemy type. Let's go ahead and just, This is why I like the knife. This is, like, the only time that I've, like, actually gotten to the point where I was like, I almost, like, mostly enjoyed my playthrough was using this. Because it's fast. This is what I'm going to demonstrate right here. This is, like, my transitional point into... Because this enemy type has some moves that... If they do, you're not guaranteed to get away with punishing them, but it's much easier to explain it using this boss. And there's countless other enemies in the game and instances where this is a problem. So we're going to demonstrate using this boss fight. The problem with the enemy attack recovery in this game. So... This is sort of like related to the general game speed. Enemies, their attacks come out really fast. They travel super far. We'll get to that in a second and why that's a problem. The enemy's attacks traveling really far all the time. Other than just being obnoxious. They have like more and more attacks in a row. Like longer attack strings, more complex attack strings. We'll talk about why that's a problem. And yeah, they're just so aggressive. They're just constantly sprinting straight in your direction, constantly just running. They occasionally, like, wait out, but nowhere near as much as, like, in Dark Souls or Bloodborne, where enemies are pretty passive. If they attack at you, their attacks are really slow and long and easy to see coming, so that you can... There's not, like, challenge to it. It's easy to react to everything, but the point is that, like, you know, like, Dark Souls was, like... originally like a game that punished you for just immediately mashing dodge all the time, because like the attacks are slower. It's less about like immediately reaction, like twitch reactions like in a character action game, and it's more about like precise timing, like being patient and waiting for the exact moment to dodge, and other elements as well, like spacing. That, like, I'll get into like why the complexities of like the other games are superior to this game, but for now I need to demonstrate how in all the other games, like say I don't have the stats to equip this weapon, right? Effectively. So it has massive stamina gain. It's not really relevant to what I was talking about, but it does it's super slow and it does next to no damage. In theory, in any of the other games, even if I equipped like a big slow weapon that did no damage, like 1 damage per hit, I would still be able to win. Any boss, any circumstance, maybe not any, but I would still be able to beat the entire game with it. Because I would never run into a situation where, like, I wasn't allowed to punish an attack or anything. I could always avoid all attacks and safely get my damage in, you know? Be guaranteed, absolutely guaranteed. There's no RNG, there's nothing about it, there's no % chance that I could be punished, that I could take damage for doing these actions. So let's see what I am allowed to safely do. Let's test RNG again. Am I allowed to just swing at this enemy? Nope. I got punished for doing so. Well, I didn't actually get punished for doing so, but that's just because I got lucky with the hitbox. Let's walk up and attack him. Randomly got lucky again. Let's try to punish that move. Okay, I got away with it. Try to punish this move. Well, I staggered him, so that's not really relevant. Try to punish that. Nope, I got punished. So, what I learned is that, at least the way I did it right there, I'm not allowed to punish that move. I am allowed to do it like this. I recover fast enough so that if he swings at me, I survive it. Nope, wasn't allowed to do that because I took damage, so that's not acceptable, so I can't do that. That move is... Also, this boss has, like, at least this phase of this boss, so many attacks that are just too fast to react to. Not, like, immediately. There's nothing he can do from, like, neutral state that is too fast to react to. There's some ones that are really obnoxious, but, like, that stab is, like, almost unreactable. At least for, like... So I know that I am allowed to get a guaranteed punish on that, and if I swing at him to punish that attack, I know that he won't be able to hit me for it. That has follow-up, so I just need to let that go. I dodged in the wrong direction. That was my fault. See? That was actually my fault, not the game's. Nope, I'm not allowed to punish that because he has potential follow-ups, so I'm not, like... Nope, not allowed to punish that because that has potential follow-ups. Let's try to punish this. Got away with it. I don't think that means I'm guaranteed to get it because his RNG might make him do something that punishes me for doing that. Not allowed to punish that because he has potential follow-ups. So I'm just waiting for an opportunity where I know that I'm safe to do something. I could have punished that, but I didn't. Let's try to swing on this. Okay, I got away with it that time. I might be able to safely punish that. What was that hitbox? The fuck was that hitbox? I know I'm allowed to safely punish that. Can I safely punish that? I didn't get punished for it, so I might be able to do that. That's too fast. I can't react to that. That's bullshit. My mistake. If I dodge that, I'm not allowed to punish it. Yep, safe punish. I fucked that up. Not the dodge that I did afterwards. I'm honestly kind of shocked that I got hit by that attack, but I dodged in the wrong direction to get to that point. No, my mistake again. My mistake again. I need to be pacing those, not dodging them. There we go. So that's a safe punish if I avoid it in that fashion. That is so annoying. That attack string. Yeah, this one. Well, I mean... It's just so fucking obnoxious. Yeah. So I'm dodging... The reason I'm getting hit there is because I'm immediately dodging because I'm worried about his attack that is unreactable. His horizontal slash that's just snap of a finger, fucking instantaneous. So I'm dodging to avoid that, but then I just get punished because he might randomly just decide to do his slower one. Yep. I decided to wait for the slower one, and I got punished by the unreactable one. So it's just a guess. Punish. I'm trying to, like, walk out of it so that I can, like, avoid it without... Okay, I was able to walk out of it that time. Let's try to walk at the same angle next time. Punish. Not allowed to punish that. Not allowed to punish that. Might be allowed to punish that. In that circumstance, I can. Not allowed to punish that if he doesn't go for a follow-up, because he might go for a follow-up, and me swinging into it would get me hit. I fucked that up. I could have punished that if I didn't dodge. Nope, that was an idiotic mistake. I just happened to get lucky. There we go. I waited for it. Might be allowed to punish that. Maybe. Seems like it. That move is bullshit. Punish. Okay, let's try that. Can I get a punish on that? I wasn't punished for it, so... Punish. Alright. So I don't really care about this moveset that he has, so I'll just let him kill me, but... The point that I wanted to make is that, like... And I'll do them again so that I can demonstrate this even further, but... The point is that, like, there's so many enemies that have so many moves that, depending on... The problem is, in these games, every last thing that an enemy does needs to allow you to get a guaranteed punish on it. There is no other acceptable option, because if the enemy just randomly happens... Say you have, like, an enemy. There's, like, 5 moves that they can do. And 3 of them are punishable. Like, true punishable. When you see it, you can take the appropriate action and get guaranteed damage without risking taking damage yourself. So, say 3 of their 5 moves are like that, and 2 of them aren't. If the RNG makes them randomly decide to do those 2 moves over and over that you're not allowed to get guaranteed damage off of, then your only opportunity really is to just get lucky. To decide to play the... You have 2 options. You have to decide to play the lottery, right? You have to decide whether or not you're going to gamble and swing at the enemy and hope that they don't randomly decide to do something that will damage you for taking that action, even though they could. There's a chance that they could. There's a chance you will take damage for trying to swing at the enemy in this circumstance. So you either have to play the lottery or accept that every single time the RNG makes them do one of those 2 moves that you can't get a guaranteed punish, you just can't play. You're not allowed to play the game. You just have to keep waiting for one of the moves that you can. And that's basically what I'm demonstrating here. I can't... If I say deal no damage per hit and have a super slow weapon... Oh. Can't believe that. Okay. Let's try dodging backwards. That worked out better. Oh, I just got lucky there. I wasn't actually, like, recovered enough, but I just got lucky with the hitboxes. I might be able to punish that. No, I don't think I can. Punish, but only if I'm on his right side. If I'm on his left side, I don't think I can get a guaranteed punish on that. Oops, I didn't mean to do that, dog. Yeah, that's... So dodging backwards isn't guaranteed there because he might randomly do something that punishes that. Fuck the auto-tracking in this game. That's another thing that I'll bring up in a future part. What the fuck is happening? Punish. Punish. Not allowed. Not allowed. Punish. Extra damage. I wanted to just outspace it by walking, but I forgot that, once again, that is basically the main flaw that I'm going to bring up with, like, enemy attacks, like, their feet just slide across the ground, because they travel, like, a mile every time they swing. Because it basically just, like, well, okay, I'll talk about it when I get to that point. That's so fucking bullshit. Punish. Punish. Yeah. That is not, like... That is not the game's fault. Like, the fact that I'm using a weapon that, like, costs so much stamina because I'm not allowed to equip it using the stats that I have is why I wasn't allowed to dodge that. But normally I would have been allowed to dodge that. Punish. Not allowed. Not allowed. Actually, I might be allowed to punish that. Oh, auto-tracking. Sometimes I'm allowed to avoid that just by stepping to the left, and sometimes I'm not. Nope, that time I wasn't. The game just arbitrarily decides how it works. Punish. There we go. Fuck this fucking brain dead speed. Punish. Nope. I made a guess on the unreactable one, and I guessed wrong. I love reading against a fucking computer. I love games that are designed to just, like, be slot machines. There we go. Punish. Extra damage. I need to sprint that one. I think I can actually just walk to the... Walking to the right is superior for those big vertical overheads of his, I believe. Yeah, like this. I can just walk to the right. I have to sort of sprint to the left. But... Okay, sometimes it lets me get away with just doing that. I was out of stamina. Oh, nope. I guessed on the unreactable one and got hit by the slow one. Fuck that up. My mistake. Punish. Bullshit. Okay, so I decided to wait that time and I got hit by the unreactable one. It's just bullshit. Like, it's just guessing. That situation is the most annoying part of this boss because it's literally just a guess. Oh, that was my mistake. Punish. Okay. So that's pretty much it. So the point is, yeah, like a massive amount of like these enemies' movesets, and that was just one part of one little phase of this boss fight. Will constantly present you with situations where it's just like attacking the enemy for 95% of your active playtime is not allowed. You're not allowed to punish this attack. You just have to keep waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting until he randomly decides to do something that you're actually guaranteed safe to be able to attack him for. Now, obviously, like I said, this is not like how most people play the game. Most people, they just equip a weapon that does a shitload of damage, and that's it. That's all they have to do. That's literally it. All they have to do is just play the slot machine. You know, like, I'm doing this because I don't want to play RNG. I don't want to swing at the enemy, even if there's just a 1% chance that the enemy could randomly do something that would damage me for taking, like, this action in this situation, for example. Even if there's a 1% chance that I will be damaged for doing so, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to do it cleanly. That's what, like, the concept of get good is to me, right? Is being able to perfect something. And if there's a 1% chance you'll get fucked over if you do this, if you'll take damage, you'll have to heal or something if you do this, to me that's not perfecting something. So this game has so much of things that like present an obstacle to that perfection. It's not a hard game. It's not hard to beat these enemies. All you have to do is just like all you have to do is just be brain dead. Like, all I would have to do is just go and just kind of fucking swing at him a bunch, and so long as I'm, like, dealing a lot of damage over time, even if I'm taking the occasional hit here and there, I just have to, like, play the slot machine, like, play the RNG. I'll swing at him here, even if there's, like, a 15% chance that I'll get punished for doing so, and just, like, over time, like, my damage output crushes his, especially because I can just keep healing whenever he damages me, and then that's it. That's it. I'm just like mashing my DPS against his DPS, and the whole thing is just a DPS race. That's why I call it a DPS race, because that's what it is. That's the most effective way to play this game, is just a DPS race. Which is not how I played any of the previous games, and not how I was forced to play. I was allowed to play patient and clean and crisp and never take a single goddamn pixel of damage in any of the other games. Except Dark, well, I'm discounting Dark 2.
This is largely why I don't feel any satisfaction from this game, trying to learn how to do a fight perfectly with no healing items and it not mattering what your weapon is or how strong your DPS is. It's just endlessly frustrating because you constantly get hit by attacks that you couldn't see coming in time, weird hitboxes, clunky camera. In some fights with some weapons, you're spending like 98% of your time basically unable to play. So trying to perfect these encounters is a bust because they're really annoying to perfect or otherwise impossible to perfect. At least in this sense, you could consider like perfecting to be what speedrunners do, which is what I believe to be fundamentally different. Or perfecting them requires, being bored to death because most of the time the enemy is doing attacks that you can't safely punish, so you just have to keep waiting until they do one that you can safely punish. So what's left? Just trying to beat the enemies regardless of the strategies used? I don't get any satisfaction out of that either. If how well I perform in a fight is based heavily on RNG, it doesn't feel satisfying. It's just so easy to beat things in a brain-dead way, Like, it's not... say I just decide to beat a boss brain dead. I buff up my weapon, like, increase its damage output with, like, usable items. Maybe I eat the grass that increases your stamina regen. Just do all this shit. I just commit to having super high damage output. I go in with full Estus. It'll be really easy to beat the fight because even though I'm getting hit a lot, I'm trading hits, I'm dealing so much damage to the enemies, so I just keep healing the damage that I take, and I'll be winning in no time. But once I've done that, where do I go from there? What do I do from there? It's not like I can do that again, but optimize it further. Like, I can't just say, oh, that was good, now let's keep improving on that. It's a strategy that is fundamentally anti-improvement. Because of that, I feel no satisfaction from winning in that way either, since I know that there's nowhere to go from there. Either way I do it, I'm not satisfied, and it's incredibly annoying. That's the core of my dislike for this game. The fact that it's not made for get good people. the fact that it's constantly just bugging me while I play it with, these fucking annoying attacks that hit me before I can see them, with attacks that punish me even when I try to punish what should have been a punishable action from the enemy. Just these constant sources of irritation. Other people don't get as irritated as I do when they take the occasional hit. For me, even getting hit a single time really frustrates me if I'm playing in a way that I should not be getting hit at all. But that is also not my only criticism. Alright, I have a few more general criticisms to go over now. Let's start with this. Okay, I can demonstrate like one or two of them in this fight, I think. First thing I can demonstrate is animations. Animations is this extends to like more than what I can show with just this fight. Okay, actually first let's talk about attack range of like enemies, for example. So yeah, it's just like I have to assume that she's going to do. See, this is generally the reason why this game suits, like, idiots better than, like, people who think. Because you are pretty likely to avoid most hits if you just mindlessly hammer the dodge button over and over. Because you're likely to avoid attacks that are too fast for you to see if you're trying to precisely dodge them. You're likely to get further away, like, out of the way of enemies. Like, let's just, like, hammer the dodge button. See, I survived that, no problem. I didn't see it. Just hammer the dodge button. Oh, look. Survived. Not actually, like, adjusting to anything, not actually even dodging when I see an attack. I'm just hitting the dodge button, and if she happens to do an attack, it avoids. So, like, this is why, like, playing without a single thought in your brain is better in this game, is because, like, it's harder to dodge things on reaction, precisely, like, one attack, one dodge. See? Now I'm trying to do it, like, precise and like get the exact right dodge in the exact right circumstance at all times. So let's try to precisely dodge this. I really hate the dodge that she can do as well. Like, even when I'm blatantly trying to sprint after the boss to try to keep up with her dodge, because I know that she's going to dodge out of the way of my attacks and I'm not going to be able to get damage in. So one attack, one dodge. Let's see if we can precisely do the correct action at all times. I only got one hit in because she randomly decided. Nope, got no hits in because of her dodge. No hits in because of her dodge. So, like, that's one of the problems with the game, is that, like, you just have to kind of guess that she's going to dodge or not if you want to actually get, like, any real damage in. Especially if you have a much slower weapon that you won't be able to get, like, just a guaranteed punish. So yeah, I guessed that she was going to dodge because it's pretty frequent and likely to happen. And there's no, like, risk associated with me guessing.
But see, like, her dodge is so far that I literally just guessed. I didn't even try to swing at her there. I just sprinted after her in her direction. And I couldn't get there in time to punish. That's ridiculous. And she can just keep dodging. And like, if RNG, like, if she literally just chose to, I would never be allowed to get a single hit in. Okay. So that was a bunch of me guessing and correctly reading her dodges in order to keep up the offense effectively. But anyways, I didn't actually mean to go to the second phase. This part of the boss I actually like, so this has nothing to do with my criticisms, so I enjoy fighting this part. But, my intention is to... How the fuck did that not hit me? So anyways, yeah. That's a good demonstration of, like... Nothing, really. That wasn't even what I wanted to actually talk about here. I'm just tired, I guess. But it was a relevant point that's, like, sort of related to how RNG determines how quickly or slowly you actually kill a lot of these enemies. Like, they might do a move that's really punishable and you can do a lot of damage to them for, and they might not. And they might do a defensive action that means that you barely deal any damage, or they might not. But anyways, the point that I wanted to show here, the first point, is attack range. So normally, in most Souls games, like Dark Souls and Bloodborne, this is not the case in Sekiro. Sekiro has this problem even worse than this game does. It's, like, my only real knock against Sekiro is, like, this point, but... So let's equip something that does less damage. So yeah, it's really hard to, like, keep up with the boss and, like, precisely do exactly what you're supposed to, like, one attack, one dodge. It's much better just mash dodge like a brain-dead dipshit. Oh, I actually hit the dodge button, but I think I hit it for slightly too long. It didn't register. So yeah, all of our attacks, or a bunch of our attacks, are like super fast. Sometimes they'll just catch you, but like being really hard to react to. Nope. I got lucky there. I jumped the gun and thought it was going to be a really fast attack, but it was in fact a slow one. Hey, backstab. I didn't think so. This is actually one of the fights that I enjoy more. This isn't like a... Oh, wait. I forgot that works like that. My mistake. But it's also, like, it's an easy mistake to make because, like, the speed of the attacks. So if I were to dodge before I even saw an attack come out, like, before I even saw the attack start up, I would actually be allowed to avoid both attacks, the fast one and the slow one. Oh, see, that hit me even though I was aware of my positioning and the spacing and, like, the area of ground that was covered in ice. I was aware of all of that, but it dodged me in a direction that I didn't want because the fact that she jumped over me with the lock-on active fucked my camera in such a way that me inputting the dodge in the correct direction made me go to a place that I didn't ask it to. So yeah, I do like this fight relative to most of the fights in this game. I don't like the third phase, but I like this phase and especially the second phase. I really like fighting like 2 or 3 big enemies all at once, because I'm good at that kind of thing. Oh. I really thought she would have dodged, and I didn't realize she had that much armor on any of her moves. I really thought I would be able to sprint after her. Whatever. Okay, so the point is, I'm getting distracted because I actually enjoy fighting this fight, but... The point is, I want to demonstrate how long-reaching all of her attacks are. Like, usually in Dark Souls and Bloodborne, you can avoid most attacks in the game from most enemies in the game without having to block or dodge anything. Or sprint, for that matter. You just... Okay, I fucked this up. The point is, tons of her attacks, like, usually in most of these games, you don't have to hit the dodge button. And there's more, like, nuance to the spacing, right? Like, me being in this position is, like, different than me being in this position, for example. However, in this game, when you have enemies that have, like, these attacks that you can't, like, outspace, like, see? I can't just walk out of there. Because, like, every attack just goes so far, and they just keep chasing you and chasing you. They move. They're just sliding along the ground, moving. So yeah, there's no way I have to, like, see? And I wasn't allowed to just walk out of the range of that one. See? I wasn't allowed to just walk out of the range of that one. That was my bad. Wasn't allowed to walk out of the range of that one. They just go so far. The attacks just slide and just keep chasing you, and they just go so far. You have to dodge. And when you have to dodge, your spacing and positioning essentially becomes irrelevant. It simplifies the defensive options to such a rudimentary degree that your positioning and where you choose to position yourself relative to the boss becomes pretty much like meaningless and pointless. You can, like, play in this game at least to some degree, like some of the bosses you can play just like sprinting around them to bait out their moves and their attacks. But just walking, you're not going to be able to avoid many things in this game. No, even sprinting straight away, it slides so far forwards that I wasn't allowed to get out. And I can't, like, sprint and turn on a dime enough to get a decent whiff punish out of it. So it's like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, your positioning, your spacing, where you choose to position yourself relative to the boss, it's all totally irrelevant. It's completely meaningless in the face of, if he does this attack, you just are forced to dodge. There we go. That's one of the places where sprinting actually works and has a benefit in this fight. My mistake. There we go. So, I dislike this because it really... There we go. That's another case where sprinting is really beneficial, because it's easier to avoid that by sprinting than it is by dodging. There we go. So, some of the time, it's pretty decent, but, like... Okay, let's see... And I wasn't allowed to get a punish because she recovered so fast that she could just dodge out of the way. So yeah, this is one of the more enjoyable fights in the game because it still has these like elements of spacing, only if you're sprinting, but and like as breakneck the speed that a lot of her attacks come out as, it's still like feasible. I'm not gonna be able to get a good punch there. Oh, I did. Yeah, the main point that I wanted to make there is that, like, a ton of enemies in this game just have, like, these outrageously long-reaching attacks. Every attack in their sequence just keeps chasing you, and it's sort of like, especially when you put enemies into, like, groups, if your only action you're allowed to take is to either, like, block or parry or dodge, it really, like, dumbs down the gameplay, I feel, compared to, like, the nuance of spacing. Like, just footwork. Like, if your only answer is dodge, then it doesn't matter, like, really much of anything. The only thing that matters is that your iframes are active during the attack. That's the only element that matters. And I guess where you position yourself afterwards so that you're in range to attack the enemy. That's basically it. That's the only thing that matters. Whereas, like, if you're avoiding attacks by like, slyly positioning yourself outside the range of an enemy's attack so that you just barely make them whiff, and you can get more effective whiff punishes, you don't have to spend stamina to dodge, you can control your positioning better, and it's just, like, it's this more nuanced game dynamic, like, in that fight, there's basically almost no difference between me standing, like, imagine the bonfire was her, me standing this far away from her, and me being right in front of her face. Functionally, to me, there's basically no difference, because if she doesn't attack, it doesn't change what I have to do. My positioning anywhere around here relative to the bonfire, here, all of that positioning, all of that dynamic, like, all of these positions I could be in, it's irrelevant. It changes nothing, because the only option I'm allowed to take is when I see an attack, dodge. As opposed to, like, the infinite number of possibilities when you make enemy attacks, like, reach relative to the range that they activate them from. Like, if an enemy is going to do one attack when I'm, like, this close to their enemy, that attack should probably reach about this far. If I'm this far away from the enemy, they should trigger an attack that goes about that far. That way you can precisely control the spacing and you don't have to be forced to dodge. You'll dodge sometimes if you're in a bad positioning. Like, I'll dodge against attacks that I normally just avoid by walking or sprinting. If I'm in a bad position and I identify, okay, I have put myself, or at least I have wound up in a positioning that is not as advantageous for me, which means I have to resort to dodging to avoid this attack, but I don't want to. I really don't want to. I would rather be more optimal and avoid things by precisely being in the exact right position so that I can just walk out of it. And you can do that in all the other games. You can, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, all of it, you can just be at the exact right range, constantly position yourself at just the pinpoint accuracy. But in this game, it's just like, nope. Every fucking attack, every fucking enemy just swings, like, from here to that door. It's ridiculous, the aggressiveness and the range of how far the attacks go and how long the enemies, like, run at you during their attack animations. Now, I mean, if I wanted to, I already said that this fight was pretty fun, but if I wanted to ruin this fight, let's equip a weapon. Like, one of my big problems with this game is that, like, the game is genuinely way more fun to play with a knife. For me, for, like, a perfectionist who doesn't want to get hit, and I want to have, like, guaranteed ways to punish things safely. Having a super fast attacking and recovering knife, way better, way more tolerable. In all the other games, it's irrelevant because, like, in Dark Souls, Bloodborne, whatever, it doesn't matter what weapon you have, there's always a way to play that's fun. You can always manage to do everything perfectly because, like, the game is designed to allow it. But in this, trying to play with, like, these big fucking, like, anything that has too much recovery, let's see how fun this game is if I go in with a super low damaging, super heavy weapon. Okay, got a hit in there, that's fine. hit in there. Its range also helps in this fight, so... I'm probably going to be better off, like, sprinting to avoid attacks. Yeah. And then I can get, like, 2 hits in. Oh, I completely forgot. Alrighty, whatever. I mean, like, I'm good. I'm good with that. Like, this fight, like, seems fine. Better than most in terms of, like, you actually being allowed to play with, like, different weapons and be able to do it flawlessly. Like I thought, I really enjoyed this fight in the DLC much more than most of the fights in the main game. Same with Slave Nightingale. Slave Nightingale is really fun to fight. And, Demon in Pain and Demon Down Below. Alrighty, so that's basically... Oh, no, wait. I have neglected to talk about the animations. So, yeah. This extends to more than just this fight, obviously, but... I want to talk about, like, animation coherence. This is not really that relevant to me because I fought this fight, like, quite a few times now, and, like, I get how it works, basically. And exactly how the moves function. The animations... Okay, I guess I'll die here, because it'll be easier to explain when I'm not fucking fighting an enemy. But, like, take, for example, like, your... Like, think of, like, a knight or something. Like, they're holding a shield, they have, like, a long sword and a kite shield or something. Think of, like, their animation as they... say, like, okay, they're in neutral, they're just kind of walking around, they're not really doing anything. Okay, they've started an attack. How do you tell? Well, they're raising their sword hand. You know, they're raising their sword in, like, a particular motion. The motion is, like, up over their head and in such a way that it looks like they're going to do, like, a swing like that, see? Either they pull it back or they raise their sword forwards, like, but there's a few ways that animation can convey that they're gonna slash it around, like, this spacing, this angle right here, like a sort of diagonal vertical attack, or maybe just a pure, like, horizontal. Did I say vertical? I meant horizontal. Yeah. But, like, yeah, and so, like, the arc of their arm, they start raising it, and it's going at, like, you can see the speed that it's going at. You know, it's like takes like half a second to get, like, up here, you know, up in, like, this position, and then it takes, like, another half a second for them to, like, start going on the follow through, and then it takes another half a second for them to, like, have finished the swing, and it's all at, like, the same pace, right? The same even pace. That is clear and coherent animation, right? And you can see, based on, like, the length of their weapon and, like, how they're stepping, how they're, like, moving, where they're holding the weapon up, like, before they swing, you can see basically, like, the general arc of where their attack is going to hit, right? Like, if I'm holding this right here, I can see the length of the sword, I can basically tell, like, how far it's going to go. But what if, rather than my character doing this animation, rather than my character doing that, what if my character just teleported over here when they do this? What if their character, with no movement of their feet whatsoever, just slid across the ground instantaneously at the very end of the animation? What if I'm doing a stab, right? Like, take, for example, like a big vertical overhead, or a stab attack like this. What is that conveying? Like, if you see an attack that's a stab attack, what is that conveying to you? What information does that provide you? What are the strengths and weaknesses? Well, it's a pierce type attack, most likely. It probably does pierce type damage. It's, you know, it probably has pretty decent, like, straightforward range, and it's probably pretty narrow. Its hitbox is pretty narrow, which means that the natural weakness of it would be to the direct left or right of it, as opposed to, like, a horizontal attack, where it doesn't matter if you're to the left or right of it, the horizontal attack will still catch you. You know, basic, like, Soul Calibur-esque logic. You know, if you see a pierce attack, a vertical attack like this, logically speaking, it would inform you that the gameplay function is that you should be to the left or right of it. But that's not how it works in this game. Like, because of auto-tracking. This is why auto-tracking is, like, generally considered to be bad game design. Because it's literally just, like, an animator not properly working with a game designer. That's, like, what leads to auto-tracking. The problem is that, say, I'm doing this attack. I'm preparing what looks like a stab. It's going to be a stab. It's going to, like, hit there. That conveys that, like, okay, the hitbox is probably going to be in this, like, narrow space, right? This is the area that it's going to attack, right? But auto-tracking, especially really late on into an animation, makes that a lie. If this attack, rather than just hitting here, if you move to the left or right of it, can just hit there, or there, or there, or there, or there. If any of these are places that it will hit, if you are at that position, that means that this is a lie. The animation is lying about the gameplay function. The animation is implying that it's hitting a narrow, straightforward angle, but the actual gameplay function means that it realistically hits like an explosion around the character, because it hits here, but at the same time it hits here, and it hits here, and it hits here. It hits all around this. This is all area that attack's hitbox will reach. That is inherently, like, the animations just being bad at communicating basic gameplay function. And the same is true of, like, the range of a lot of the attacks. Freed has some of the worst animations in the entire game, so this is why I wanted to use this as an example. Because look at, like, how, when she's... I know her attacks are really fast, but, like, try to look at, like, when she... Not that one, because she was already dashing before she raised her weapon to attack. So ignore that attack, but... wow, it just didn't care about a single one of my dodge inputs. Wow, that's impressive. Impressive ability to ignore what I'm inputting. But yeah, say, let's look for, like, an attack, like, okay, that attack, she raises it above her head. You can see basically, like, the length of the scythe. You can see all of this shit. And it communicates to you, like, visually, there's an implication, a very split-second implication. Your brain is like, okay, I'll calculate, based on this visual data, where this attack... I can't see shit. Where this attack is going to hit. But it's a lie. Oh, it didn't feel like dodging. Okay. I understand that. Sometimes I get bored, too. I get lazy. So I understand that. But this enemy, like, raises her scythe, and then, even though the animation implies that it's going to hit at, like, this, like, a modest range, rather than have the animation actually be truthful and imply correctly where the attack's going to hit, they instead just have the animation play out like it looks like, but they just have her feet slide across the ground. You see? Look at her feet. Look at her, how she's just, like, gliding. Her character model is just being translated forwards, regardless of, like, her actual, like, hand motions with her weapon. So the actual functional range that her attacks actually end up reaching is completely different than what her animations imply her attack's going to hit. That animation's fine. See, that one's fine, and the pacing is accurate, and it's like it's a consistent pacing, that big jumping overhead attack. It's obnoxious when it goes over your camera, and it makes your camera get all fuckety, and you can't, like, it won't take your dodge input in the correct direction anymore. It's really annoying when that happens, but... And this one's fine. But yeah. A lot of her just basic default combo strings and attack strings. Stop doing this. You're wasting my time. Involve her, like, raising her weapon, implying that she's going to hit one area, and then her feet, like her entire body just sort of slides through space, and she hits way further than it visually implies that she's going to hit. It's awful animation. For game design, at least. It's really, really, really bad animation for conveying gameplay function. And yeah, tons of the enemies in this game work like this, where they raise their weapon, and it looks like, visually, the length of their sword, the reach of their arm, their posture, looks like they're going to reach around this range, and then their body just, like, moves an extra mile forwards with no explanation or reason why. And they hit a completely different space than they should have, based on the visual data that you had access to. And this goes further than you might think, actually. Like, let me go into some of the early-ass areas in the game, and, like, try to present an example of, yeah, High Wall of Lothric, that'll work. For example, like, you'll have, this game is full of, like, attack sequences from various enemy types that visually are completely incoherent. I don't mean it's impossible to identify which moves are which. Some of the enemies have, like, moves that are too fast to react to with how long it delays your dodge inputs and that sort of thing, but that's not what I mean. That's not what I'm referring to. I mean that, like, what they're actually doing in terms of their animations is really illogical and makes no sense. Let me see if I can find, like, no, this guy's just gonna be an archer. I think, okay, one of these guys over here, I think, has some good examples of this. So what do you have access to? Let's watch his animations. Okay, so there, and he, like, plants his axe down, and it's, like, looks like he's stumbling over, and it looks like he has tons of recovery, right? But then there, he did, like, a thing where he planted it down. See, when does this end? Like, visually, am I supposed to, like, register any of that as, like, a logical attack string? It's not like, you know, like, what point am I supposed to visually tell that it's over with? Because everything that looks like the end of an attack string just ends up leading to another attack, but sometimes it doesn't? Well, how am I supposed to tell, like, just based on visual information, a logical, like, end point to any of their strings? They're just, like, sort of, it just seems like their attack strings are just, like, one attack that is logically completely disconnected from the previous attack. See, like, and apparently you're still going. Is the string over with now? I guess it is. So yeah, it's just, like, really confusing, really, like, visually unclear. It's difficult to, like, learn their movesets just based off of watching them, because their actual strings don't seem like, you know, one leads into another in a logical fashion. They're animations that look like an enemy is in recovery, but then they just suddenly do... Look, he's stumbling all over, but then all of a sudden he transitions to his next attack. Is that the last thing he can do in his string? Can he cancel that into something? Okay, so now he's doing a big vertical. A lot of his attacks just look like identical to each other, but I know that they're not. I know they're separate moves. Is this attack string over? Can he cancel that into another follow-up? Visually, it doesn't look like he can, but because it looks like he's constantly just stumbling. Okay, that looks like the end of a string. Is it? Was that part of the previous string, or... What are these, like, sequences and animations? They just make no fucking sense. Okay, so big horizontal. Can you follow that up in anything? So you can do that, and then I guess just go into a horizontal for some reason. So I guess that's the end of that string. That's a defensive attack that he can do, I guess. Seems to not have a follow-up. You see what I mean? Like, it's like... It's not like a logical... Like, for example, the knight guys that I was fighting in the Lothric Castle, their animations make sense. They have, like, 1, 2, and then, like, a big stab, and you can very clearly tell that the stab is, like, the finisher. Which is odd, because if you're in front of them when they do that, he still has other actions that he can take afterwards. So it's not even technically the end of their attack string. But even so. Just like a bunch of animations that are just really bizarre and really bad at like communicating. If you don't already know exactly like the complexities of an enemy's moveset, it's really hard to tell like what's a logical conclusion, what attack seems like it might have a follow-up to be wary about. Like all of the attacks both look like they might have follow-ups and that they might just like be the end of an attack string. You don't know, because they all look like weird, inconsistent, incoherent flailing. And don't even get me started on like some of this shit. Like some of the fights with like just the worst camera work possible. Just like trying to visually... I haven't fought this fight in a while, so I don't exactly remember the moveset very well. But, like, yeah. Like, there's no floor in this fight, so, like, it's really hard to, like, tell the spatial, like, like, what is close to what. For example, it's really hard to just judge space. In this fight, you either have to, like, choose to use your, like, manual camera, and it's just, like... You, in order to be close enough to hit the boss with, like, melee attacks, you have to be so close that you can barely fucking comprehend and tell what is happening. So I have to be looking up here, but then I'm, like, getting disoriented and, like, am I in range to hit? Why are my attacks not hitting? I like, it's so disorienting. I can't see shit. How far does this attack reach? Like, none of the visual information makes any sense. It's just completely disorienting. Can't fucking tell how close I am to anything, where I can. Like, if I'm underneath his head, I can't see a goddamn thing he's doing. How am I supposed to tell what's happening? Jesus, it's fucking, like, how, like, I can't see shit! This is a joke! Am I close enough to hit his head? I guess not. What? Oh. I forgot he could do that. I can't see him. I can't see him. What is he doing? Okay. Is he doing a big vertical? Okay. I can't tell what he's doing. I can't see anything. Even if I'm, like, a little farther away, like, not actually underneath his head, I can't see anything. Doesn't matter if I'm manually controlling it or locking on. Like, look at this shit. How am I supposed to fucking see anything that's happening? If I lock on, it's constantly just wigging me out, like fucking shaking my head all over the place. The second phase of this fight is really fun. The second phase of this fight, I very much genuinely enjoy fighting. This phase is a fucking joke. Can't see shit. Is he, like, what is he doing? I can't see. Alright, so that's pretty much, that's, like, I expressed what I wanted to express here. That's pretty much good, actually. And yeah, I mean, that's, like, probably the worst example, like, the worst case in the entire game of, like, camera work and visual information being just so bad, so bad. But, like, basically any enemy that's like really large or overbearing or has an attack where they leap like above their head or they fly and float somewhere above your head and then come down with an attack, but you can't really see what they're doing. Like, you'd have to like try to look straight up and try to see from this shitty angle like what they're doing, because they break your lock on and you can't lock onto them. And if you try to lock onto them, your camera's just flipping all over the place, and it's so bad. It's really bad. But back to Lothric Castle, because now I want to explain something that's like... One of the issues is like, one of the main takeaways from this game compared to like Dark Souls or Bloodborne is that, and Demon Souls, I mean, for that matter. Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, enemies are extremely slow. The game is not about, like, it's not a character action game. They aren't character action games. They're not like these fast-paced Devil May Cry-esque things. They are very, very slow. Enemies are slow. Their attacks are slow. Oh my god, stop wasting my time. The point is, take like just a knight in Demon Souls or Dark Souls or something. Like, take like a Blue-Eyed Knight, for example. Blue-Eyed Knight in Demon Souls, nothing that they have that will catch you off guard. There's nothing that's too fast for you to react to or anything. It's just about your patience and your level of consistency with consistently avoiding them and punishing them and like getting your damage in. When they do a stab, they do like this full-on motion where they step into it slowly and then they like cock their arm back slowly and then they stab into it. There's no like whoosh, whoosh, gotcha moment. There's no like fucking DMC Dante Stinger. There's nothing, some bullshit out of nowhere like there is in this game. It's a very long, protracted animation. You can see the entire process. It is very slow. So, enemies one-on-one in those games, extremely easy to deal with, unless you're getting like impatient or attacking into their armored moves, or trying to attack into their shields and then getting hit, or running out of stamina. Like, those are the main like concerns in those games. In this game, you're less likely to run out of stamina unless you have a weapon that like spends a lot of stamina. But anyways, the point is that the benefit of having enemies that are really slow, their slow attack startup, they're not very aggressive, they don't just sprint at you all the time. They sort of mosey about, like if you're at the bonfire, they just sort of like pace back and forth, moving slowly. Sometimes they'll come in for an attack. If they go in for an attack, they'll attack at like a modest range. They won't hit like a huge area. They'll hit like a pretty small range. They'll have pretty short like attack strings, and their attacks will have tons of recovery. After they whiff an attack, they'll be like out of commission for like another like 5 seconds or so. This makes one-on-one enemies extremely easy. Like, you can basically just toy with them, do whatever you want to them. But the benefit of this is that you can add complexity to the levels, because you can put them in different situations. Like, okay, yeah, this enemy, like this knight, is extremely easy if you have any idea what you're doing. They're extremely easy to just pick apart. You don't have to react to anything quickly. There's nothing like... You can easily punish them on whiffs, get your damage in. There's infinite number of ways that you can take them down and approach them. But there's an infinite number of ways that you can avoid their attacks, deal with their attacks. You can block and punish them on the recoil. You can just space them out. You can dodge past them. You can dodge towards them and ignore them. All these different ways that you can circumvent, like, enemies and the limited amount of space that they can attack and the limited frequency and speed with which they can attack it. But say you get 2 of the same knight in the same area, or 3. Say you get like 2 and like maybe 2 smaller henchmen. Say you get like 1 knight but in a room where sorcerers or archers are shooting at you from long distance, long enough for you to see and have enough time to like identify that a projectile is coming your way, and have enough time to like plan in advance what you're going to do about it relative to all the other elements in the environment. See, that's the benefit. when you design your games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne around like really slow events and actions, it allows you to gradually bump up the complexity of the scenarios, because sure, dealing with a super slow enemy is really easy if it's just one-on-one, but like if you have a bunch of enemies in the environment, suddenly it starts to become like a testament of your ability to keep track of everything, and they need to be that slow for you to be able to manage multiple enemies at once. Their attacks and recovery need to be that slow for you to be able to fight 4 of them in the same room at the same time and be like, okay, I see he's starting up this attack while he's like preparing this arrow, and and this enemy over there, he's in the recovery period, so I don't have to worry about him. I could even dodge in his direction and be safe. So I have to plan, okay, I need to be able to avoid this attack, but I need to make sure that if I dodge that attack, it's not at a timing that will get me hit by that arrow over there that's coming at me. So you have all of this time, because the enemies are slow enough that you can calculate all of the data at once and then come up with an effective game plan. And some people are really bad at that. Some people you don't have to do that. Some people only play these games by just like pulling out one enemy at a time. Like if say they're going through like the forested area in Bloodborne, maybe they're just like dragging one enemy out at a time and like killing that enemy without drawing the aggro of the other enemies in the environment. You don't have to. The game is not bullshit if you fight all those enemies at once. If you're confident in your knowledge of like the awareness and your ability to keep track of multiple enemies at once, the game is slow enough and lenient enough that like you can get all the information and make logical decisions based on like 8 or 9 enemies all around you and what they're all doing. You can do that, and that's where like the challenge comes from. That's when it actually gets challenging. You don't have to do it. You choose to engage in that challenge, or you could choose to run by the enemies or aggro them one-on-one. But the problem is, the benefit of that is that you get all of this complexity added into the game. Like, you get so many different scenarios that you can play in, because of the different ways that they can mix and match enemies, and that you can choose to engage multiple enemies in a single environment. Whereas in this game, one single one of, like, for example, these knight guys is so aggressive and so strong relative to your toolkit, you can only fight basically one-on-one. The game is not, like, fundamentally fair trying to fight if you were to fight multiple of these guys at the same time. If you were to fight like 2 or 3 of them, or 2 of these guys while you're getting shot at by archers, like the aggressiveness and speed of the game makes it physically impossible for like a player to be able to manage that without just like, without relying on like, say, armor moves or something, like, using a bunch of like FP skills to deal enough damage. And even that's not like a consistent thing, because you'll still take damage even when you're armoring attacks. At that point, you're just relying on, like, your DPS. It's no longer a get good, do it perfectly. It's a DPS race. Like, kill the enemies before they kill you. Deal enough damage before you take that much damage. So there are scenarios where you can fight multiple of these guys at the same time in this game, but it's not something you can perfect. It's just a DPS race where you have to, like, just manage it, I guess. Like, just swing and like, try to kill one as fast as possible so you can simplify the situation. It is not built to be fair to fight multiple of these enemies at once, because by themselves they're too strong, they're too fast, they're too aggressive. And this leads to like the game, I fucked that up, the game becoming really simplistic over time, really, really repetitive, because it's like fighting this enemy type is no different than fighting this enemy type at the beginning of the game, and every other time I fought this enemy type, there's no like mixing and matching of enemies, there's no like complexity or anything. Like, the fact that this enemy can only be fought one-on-one for it to be even remotely fair to the player means that there's a limit to like the complexities of the levels that you can play through. You're just gonna keep fighting the same enemies over and over, just one-on-one, which is way more boring than like the actual challenge that you get from learning individual movesets in like the other games that are slow, and then getting into encounters where you have to manage that slow information like you have the time to calculate all that information from like a bunch of enemies all at once. That's to me way more fun and presents way more like like diversity of scenarios. Whereas in this, if I fight this enemy here, he just is the exact same enemy with bigger stats and more damage than the enemies I fought in the beginning of the game, but the fight, the actual gameplay of it is just identical. If you mix and match your enemies, you can create an infinite number of fun and engaging like gameplay levels and scenarios. But if your enemies are so strong that you can only fight them one-on-one, you just fight them one-on-one over and over and over, and it eventually just gets boring as fuck. So let me demonstrate what would happen if I tried to fight multiple of these enemies at once. Let's be fair. Let's equip my main weapon. And my chime, I guess. So let's be completely fair and actually have like all my shit ready to go. What happens if we fight these enemies? And I'm usually really good at this. This is like my #1 skill is managing multiple enemies at once. Oh, fuck. Yeah, it's way too long to start up. I can't do the heavy one. How long is this one? It's been a while since I used magic. Problem is, if I do this, they like tend to de-aggro. Okay. I tried to get, but his recovery is too short. You have to be like exactly in the exact right position to get. Fuck, my camera got fucked and I couldn't see what was happening. Okay. It's fuck you. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't. I had to dodge one, but then I was getting hit by the other. My camera's just getting fucked because, like, they're so aggressive that they constantly make you back into all these walls. Ah, oh, fuck. It's in range. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. Fuck you, I dodged. There's no way in hell I didn't dodge before that hit me. Same thing. Literally no way in hell that happened. Okay. Fuck. And I'm never mashing dodge. My rule is only dodge what you see. I don't just mindlessly dodge things I didn't fucking see. Shit, I'm getting disoriented because I can't see through all this bullshit. My camera keeps wigging out because of the balls. I was going to get caught by that. I might have been able to dodge that. Bullshit. I was definitely out of range of that. It's the only intention. I was walking backwards to whip punish that. Yeah, I couldn't see because I fucking can't see shit. To turn to face them would mean that I can't see where I'm allowed to dodge to be able to get some space so that I can actually fucking do anything. Ugh, yeah. Forced to dodge. Always forced to dodge. The attack range is so massive, I can't just walk out of the range of it. I always have to dodge. Okay. Fuck. I didn't even see that he was recovered. I really didn't think that he would be able to attack that quickly. Why didn't you dodge through him? Why was I stuck on geometry? Oh shit. My character got turned upside down. No, why didn't you trigger a backstab, you fucking... Yeah. Pointless to try to dodge towards them. You just get caught up on their fucking geometry. Nope, wasn't allowed to recover in time. Oh, they never whiff attacks when I want them to. Like, this is my one opportunity to, like, fuck you, and I just keep getting caught in the environments because I have to just constantly just move backwards and backwards and backwards, and I have no fucking choice but to do that. I can't tell where I am. I need to resituate myself so I'm not, like, my camera isn't bouncing up and down. Why did my character not attack? Why did my character attack in a completely wrong direction? Why? My character just decided to stab in a direction that was nowhere near where the enemy that I was locked onto was. What the fuck? Why did he do that? But anyways, as you can see, definitely not fair. Not something you can realistically do. You should really just fight them one-on-one. So, as a result, it is inherently, like, more boring long-term because you're only going to be allowed to, like, fight all the enemies in this game in, like, the limited scenarios that they are put into because you can't fight more of them at once. That is, like, the fundamental design of, like, making individual enemies too strong rather than having enemies be, like, whatever, like, a threat, but not, like, built around your entire toolkit such so that you can only really manage one at a time. Their recovery is so fast you can only barely manage to punish them for their recovery one-on-one. Like, you have to be in the exact right position, the exact right time, and that's with a fast weapon. I would not be able to do shit if I tried to equip my no damage Dragon Tooth. I would literally never be able to do a single action safely if I were to try to do that, even fighting just two of them at once. I mean, obviously, yeah, if my Dragon Tooth did damage, then like I keep saying, I could just turn it into a DPS race and just kill them before they kill me, and it'd be incredibly easy to do. It wouldn't be difficult at all. But that's the point that I'm making. It's not a get good game, it's just a DPS race game. So yeah, that's the fundamental design flaw with making like individual enemies as strong as like realistically possible, is that you end up like tanking your level design long term because all of your levels just become the exact same level over and over and over, since you can't add more complexity to them because you already shot yourself in the foot with what complexity you're allowed to add because your individual enemies are too strong to put them in groups.
Another issue is that a lot of enemies have absolutely massive movesets, like so many different moves they can go for, variations on attack strings. This move might cancel into this other move, or backwards and forwards, but to a certain limit. Like say he starts out with combo string A, and he can cancel and transition into attacks from combo string B, and then he can cancel into like maybe a stab or something, but if he instead did like combo string B and then transition into combo string A, he has different cancel options that are fundamentally different. It's not like he can do it infinitely. So like when you really get down to figuring out what enemies can and can't do between all of the different movesets, it's insanely convoluted. You know, there's so many fucking moves and variations on moves and potential cancels and chains. It's really hard to actually learn everything, especially when the RNG doesn't happen to give you all of the moves all the time, you know? Like, for example, I think I fought, like, the Dancer the Boreal Valley, like, on my first playthrough in the original Japanese version of the game. 40 minutes straight on my first playthrough, not taking any real attacks, just sort of hanging back, trying to learn the moveset, and constantly getting hit by like these obnoxious attacks, really fast attacks that it wasn't clear what they were going to do or how to dodge, attacks that would damage me on block, even when I was doing nothing but focusing on defense and patiently waiting to observe the attack patterns. Even after all that time, the boss would, like, so many of the moves look like each other. The boss would occasionally still pull out, like, an attack chain that cancels into this move that I didn't know they could do in that situation. And it's just so much easier to just say, fuck it, and just start swinging without knowing anything about the enemies. That was the moment I really started to hate this game, was on my very first playthrough, getting fed up with all the moves that the Dancer had, whilst already being annoyed at like all of the game I had played at that point, and being annoyed at all the moves that looked really similar to each other, constantly getting fucked over, and then like I decided, okay, I'll just turn my brain off, went for an attempt where I would just mindlessly move towards the boss and swing at it, and just mash dodge when I saw any attack animation, and just mash Estus whenever I took damage, and I instantaneously won the encounter. No learning, no skill, no thought, just getting rewarded for playing like shit. A whole heck of a lot of this game boils down to these setbacks. If there's even one instance of, like, unfairness in an otherwise enjoyable fight, that unfairness will taint the entire experience for me. One attack that hits me way too fast for the game to have time to fucking slowly register your dodge input after you press the goddamn button, and the fight is immediately an obnoxious chore to me. Constantly trying to precisely manage my spacing, but still getting hit by attacks because they hit further than they visually appear, because it didn't look like it was going to move as far forward as it does, and I'm instantly not having fun. The game is fundamentally enjoyable to play. It is. But all of these elements just ramp up the frustration, and if these problems weren't there, I'd probably have fun. I really enjoy fighting Slave Knight Gale because he doesn't have these problems. He's slow, his animations are clear, he attacks where he looks like he's going to attack at the timing that it looks like he's going to attack. He punishes brain-dead play and mashing dodge, and he rewards patient play and correctly doing everything. I enjoy other fights too. I love fighting the Demon in Pain and Demon Down Below, the second phase of the Freed, because I'm good at managing multiple threats at once and keeping in mind relative positions and relative recoveries of various enemies and actions that they're taking. I like fighting the Silver Knights in Anor Londo. There's, other instances, but There's little moments where the annoying bullshit clears away, and there's nothing stopping me from having fun with like the genuinely enjoyable content. But most of the game gets bogged down with like repetitive enemy encounters due to the fact that the level design has to be built around only fighting like 1-on-1 or maybe 2-on-1 because enemies by themselves are too strong, and just like frustrating, mind-numbing, irritating shit. And it's far from just the individual cases I showed. These are pervasive design elements that pop up constantly throughout the entire game, all of which sap my ability to get any satisfaction like I normally get from a Souls-like for, you know, getting good, for the souring the entire experience. Like I said, there's no satisfaction in this game for me because for most of the game's content, look at it. I can choose to look at it as something to perfect, something that I can just gather all the data, figure out what to do in every situation, be able to visually and audibly, whatever, identify every situation, and then I'll be able to execute it flawlessly over and over. But because there's so many obstacles to doing that in this game, that's not a choice I can make. And as such, I can't get any satisfaction from trying to do that. The other way I can look at it is, you know, not look at something like to completely master and just more of a single, really pressing challenge to overcome against all odds. Like, for example, even though I'm probably much better doing these levels than I was, you know, before I eventually beat them, I doubt I could just right now go and pick up and play Super Meat Boy and beat all of the levels in the I Wanna Be the Guy stage without a single death. That's not going to happen, but the levels by themselves are so difficult that even if I don't master it in the long term, just the fact that I beat it once is satisfying enough because it took so much effort for me to do so back when I did it. That's a valid form of satisfaction too, but it's not in this game. It has no basis for me in this game because the game is not that challenging. It doesn't have like a serious gripping anything that really requires that much effort or thought or dedication to be able to get through to barely scrape out a win. No, I mean, if you just abuse your gameplay options, this game isn't challenging in the slightest. It's extremely easy to just win. Even if you die here and there, it takes no thought or talent or skill to just persevere and just beat any one challenge in this game. You know, you can just mash your head against everything, just mash your attacks against the enemies. You'll probably end up killing them before they kill you. So, it's not satisfying to beat these challenges, quote-unquote, inherently, because it's actually very easy to get a win, but it's also not satisfying to perfect them and try to optimize them further, because doing so is nigh impossible without changing your metrics, like just doing speedruns instead of figuring out how to perfect, like, individual encounters or enemies. And just, you know, buckling down on maximizing DPS and avoiding every enemy you don't have to fight. After those forms of satisfaction are gone, what am I actually left with? A game that is fun every now and then, but consistently pokes me with a needle of annoyance in ways that I just can't ignore.